Welcome to The Perfect Balance, where this is the podcast where we discover your symptoms are not the problem, with your hosts, Eva Vennari, Dr. Heather Kneale, and Leslie Brown. Join us as we jump right into this episode. Welcome in. This is The Perfect Balance podcast, all things mineral balancing. We're here to remind you that your symptoms are not the problem. I'm one of your three hosts. My name is Eva Vennari with the Elevate Institute, and I help folks return back to health from adrenal burnout.
And I'm Dr. Kneale. I'm co-founder and CEO of Global Nutritional Healing. We have an institute that offers mineral balancing certificates.
And I'm Leslie Brown, founder and CEO of the Mineral Balancing Group, with a focus on high-achieving men, empowering them to manage stress and sustain peak performance.
And part of that peak performance is our subject today. We're going to be talking about sleep, how to get it, and how we somehow get it wrong. How do we do that? Have you ever asked somebody, how are you doing? And they look like they're just terrible. And they go, oh, I think I slept wrong. How do you sleep wrong? So let's talk about that. What are some of the main complaints you hear from your clients about sleep and sleep patterns and sleep problems? I'll start with you, Leslie.
Yep. Okay. Looks like Heather might have frozen. She'll unfreeze and get back. It's the complaints that I've heard is always waking up at about 2:30 in the morning or at a specific time every night. I hear that. I also hear it's as if all those bad things or negative unresolved things that happen during the day are living in their head rent free and keeping them up only when they pray that they could have some sheep to count. So maybe it would distract them. And other people just can't sleep, wide-eyed and desperate for sleep. And the last one would be disrupted sleep, maybe coming up every 45 minutes or so, just coming to full awakeness and then trying to sleep again. So disrupted sleep.
Yeah. What about you, Heather? Anything to add to that?
Oh, sleep. That was my main problem with sleep. I was an insomniac I got so many degrees just from not sleeping.
Yes.
My mom's the same. My mom's the same. So I just thought not sleeping was normal to be up at 3:00 in the morning. But that is probably the number one complaint I get from people is sleep. And there's so many different reasons to have problems with sleep. And we do help so many people with sleep. I sleep like a baby now. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? It wasn't a quick fix. It took quite a few years to get there. But I mean, to get a good night's sleep, that was really unheard of. But I have a lot of degrees to show for it.
This is so true. We laugh because it is true. It's like when I had a little bout of insomnia from a healing reaction not too long ago. So what did I do? I went online and I got certified in soul retrievals because I can't help myself.
Right.
But yeah,
stay awake, fill the time.
Yeah. So it's part of my own story too. When they go, oh, how did you get started in this? Well, I was a hot mess. And since I had insomnia, and I say I was blessed with insomnia, up at 3:00 in the morning, putting in search, how do I feel better, on Google. And back then, Google was not as friendly as it is today. Google today is like, oh, did you mean this? And back then you had to be a little bit more specific. And so I came across this article about this is a reflection of how you'll feel if your body is toxic, overloaded, and overwhelmed with stress hormones and all. Right? You'll have hypothyroidism, you'll have blood pressure, probably high or low, and those both can be from the same problem. And I kept reading it, and it would have been a dry article for anybody who wasn't affected by this. But talk about peak performance. Right. What was that? So sleep. What are some indications? So when we're talking about minerals and mineral balancing, what are some things that we can look for that a person, they go, oh, I've never slept very well my whole life. Isn't that normal? No, it's just common. So what are some things that we see on a test that indicate that a person's having trouble with their sleep and what it might be causing it?
Well, really high calcium, we call it biounavailable calcium. That can be your low in sedative minerals. We see that very often. Low zinc, and the zinc level doesn't indicate if you have low zinc. So, but not having enough zinc. Magnesium is another one. These are all calming sedative minerals that most people burn up very quickly, and then we don't have them, and we have to replenish them daily in the right and the correct amounts. And most people don't even take them. Or if they take one, they take a ton of magnesium. We hear that one a lot right now. We also see a very low potassium level. We call that sympathetic dominance. That's somebody that overused their adrenal glands when they're, in fact, extremely tired. I am a type A personality. I have had to work on it for years. What else do we see? What else do we see? Copper metals, heavy metals. Copper is a big one, so if you may have never heard of it, but we're very versed in copper toxicity. And I would
Yep.
say most everyone has some copper toxicity.
Mhm.
I amaze
No.
people with this comment. I say, you need energy to sleep.
Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah. Let's talk about why that is.
I'm going to slip over to one experience that I'd had, and I didn't think about this as a sleep issue, but it really is. And when I first started the program, I almost went comatose when I slept. So I think it was, they might call it pseudo seizures. And I'd wake up in the morning and there'd be this huge sweat stain on the mattress cover. So if I strip the beds to clean the bed linens and stuff, there's this huge sweat stain. So tying into what your question was, why do you need energy to sleep? And for me, the energy was trying to heal my body of different pathogens, of different disease causing agents that had entered my body. In my case, it was Lyme disease, which is an umbrella name for a whole host of different kinds of parasites, bacteria, viruses, the whole shebang. Fungus. And so my body needed the energy actually to heal because there's so much activity that takes place at night. And like Heather mentioned, I was very high in calcium. My body just didn't have the minerals that it needed because they work in tandem, they work together to be able to absorb and use the calcium that was there. And so I just didn't think of it until just now that being able to sleep like comatose, I didn't have dreams or anything, but just knocked out, very difficult time getting up in the morning, and always wondering, why was it that I felt so fatigued every morning? Just lots of lots of sleep, but not being rested. So
Yeah. Yeah. And Heather, you mentioned the sympathetic dominance part. It's funny, we can see this, like you said, on the test with low potassium and then a few other factors with ratios. It's all about the relationships, like Leslie said, of minerals. It's not about just one being too high or one being too low. And so I'll see the sympathetic dominance and calculate it, and then I'll start describing to the person in the consultation, this is what it feels like. You may lay your head down at night and feel like you want to go to sleep, but your mind whirs and you continue to think. And even if you were to write down those things and get them out of your head, you still can't go to sleep. And you wake up several times in the night. And when you do wake up finally in the morning, you actually are now ready to go to bed because you're so exhausted. So are you reading my mind? No, I'm reading your chart. You can see it. Yeah. So, yeah, there are a bunch of things that create the perfect storm. And so it's like, well, okay, we hear all these things, Eva, what do you do about it? So let's talk about what we can do about it. Let's start with sleep hygiene, getting ready for bed at night. What do you suggest?
That's a big one. That's a big one. Well, to have it dark in the room, not too hot, comfortable for you. Go to bed at a good time, not watching TV or working on your work like an hour before, because you're trying to wind down. And so what ends up happening is that you get done with work and I get really excited about work. So I'm like, oh, okay. So then I go to bed. I'm like, oh, oh yeah, I forgot to do, because my brain's still on, so
Yeah.
or I
Yes.
get really excited and I jump out of bed and I get my pen and I'm like, oh, I should write an article, so you want to wind down before bed. Well, this is even this, and Leslie, this is so critical. I had a terrible problem with sleep, that it was so bad that my whole family would just walk on eggshells around me, because I'm like, did somebody just walk to the bathroom? I saw the light flicker on. That's how bad I was. Turn that light off. Nobody talk. Hand sign language only.
Wow. That's brutal.
Lock the pets outside. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we laugh now. It's good in hindsight, but these are serious, right? These are moments when you're desperate. How do I get to sleep? I have friends right now who like, Eva, how do I get to sleep? I can't get to sleep. And they use alcohol, or they'll use, something else to deplete their adrenals and whip them to the point of, I'm going to pass out. So let's talk about what the problem is with that.
Yeah, you don't want to do things to disrupt your body like that. You need those adrenal glands, and it's artificial stimulation to knock you out. It's not a good situation. I was thinking back on sleep hygiene too. Something that I'm really big on right now is turning off the Wi-Fi at night and getting those cell phones out of the bedroom, and probably TVs too, even the smart TVs. We just don't realize that part of the toxicity and the pollution that hits our body are all these electromagnetic frequencies that are running through the air so quickly. And that's very important for sleep hygiene. And I liked what Heather said about, keep a pen by the bed. In the beginning, I had to keep a pen by the bed so I could write down my ideas and then hopefully go to sleep. But after a while, as healing took place, I could end my day, my work day, by creating a to-do list and being ready for the morning, and my brain could let go of that and I could move on with the day. But I didn't think about that as a symptom either. So I'm tickled that this is coming up, but the brain going like crazy would be a symptom. But you find yourself having to do your to-do list while you're supposed to sleep, you might find later that that's a sign of healing, is that you can do it during the day.
Yeah. And
I wanted to touch back on the alcohol and using other things to help sleep. Eventually, they don't help you sleep. It can be, you start out with a glass of wine. I've seen so many people do this. Then it's 2 glasses of wine. I have some friends, it's up to like 3 bottles of wine now. And so it's a vicious cycle is what it is. So anything you're doing, we want sleep, granted, but if you're doing things that are negatively affecting your body, you are depleting your already depleted minerals even further.
Yeah. I was talking to some friends. I was on fentanyl addiction is really big everywhere, but we're really seeing it strongly here in the Midwest. And kind of speaking to this point about the wine as well, these things leach minerals out of our body. And then it creates this incredible craving that just gets fulfilled by whatever that substance was, or that's how most people do it, whatever that substance was that caused the problem in the first place. So to break that cycle, we find, even I talked to Heather about this pretty extensively, but we find that when you replace the minerals, it releases that grip of that intense craving. And then a lot of times in those situations, you also need some good counseling so you don't trigger on whatever the social issues were in your life that made you want to numb out in the first place. But the point being, those things drain your minerals severely, and it does become a vicious cycle.
Yeah, the dedication your body has to keeping you healthy, it's interesting. People think when they get like this, the body's broken. I have a lemon of a body, something's wrong with it, it's not working right. It's working exactly how it can to keep you around. It's trying to survive. And this is the best it can do. And it has like stop gaps built in. It says, all right, if I can't heal, guess what? I'm going to wake your ass up in the middle of the night at 2:30 and tell you that your adrenals aren't functioning right, because that's what the body's trying to heal at that time. And so if it can't do the healing, it wakes you up to let you know. And rather than trying to shut it up and go, oh, I need to roll over, go back to sleep and forget about it and not know, it's understanding how your body's communicating with you that I think matters as well. So all of these things that we've mentioned, they have different reasons why they're there, but the solution is all the same.
Balance your minerals.
That's right.
Exactly. Yep.
That's it.
Balance
Like
the
a broken
minerals.
record. Balance your
We can
minerals.
improve your energy. And like Eva was saying, you need energy to sleep. Your body rejuvenates at night. If you don't have that energy, you don't sleep well. And so, I mean, I don't know about you two. I went to the doctors numerous times because I could never sleep. And it was always take a vacation. You just need a few days to recoup. I mean, and I never felt any better. It didn't matter how much I slept, or if I slept 12 hours, I felt like I slept none. If I slept 30 minutes, I felt like I slept none.
Yeah, it takes a learning to realize that each of these symptoms, all these multitudes of them, are your body's way of communicating that something's out of balance. So we're really trying to get to, there was that movie, what was it, Body Talk? That's an old movie. But learning how our bodies talk to us and what they're trying to explain. And we often tune them out and decide that we know better. So we'll take this, that, or the other thing just to knock ourselves out instead of paying attention and give the body what it needs to naturally take care of us.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's exactly true. And what's interesting is we actually don't need anything smarter than a kindergartner to take care of our bodies, really. Like everything we learned in kindergarten, that book, remember,
yes,
it is what it needs. And I always try to remember to like pad my calendar between my appointments to stop the momentum. And if we stop the momentum of our day throughout the day regularly, then the brain isn't going a million miles an hour at the end. And it's a lot easier for the body to slow down. Now, that's one of the tactics that I use. If you need to stop your momentum, take a nap.
Right.
But not everybody can escape that in the workplace. But if you work from home, or especially if you have a new baby, like sleep with the baby, like all these things are common sense as far as logic. Let's call it logic instead of common sense. But the idea is to treat your body as if you're still a child, because it is kind of like what it needs is really simple.
I like that. Of course, you can take little, as you're pushing your brain, but you're also pushing your adrenals to give you more energy and try and keep that brain going. And you can break that also. I love that idea about padding the calendar, but you can get up and take a little walk. You can do a couple of deep breaths, hold it 7 seconds, right? Let it go.
Yeah.
There's several things that you can do to kind of break that pattern.
Yeah, and
I think we have
amazingly
another minute or so left.
Yep, I see we're gonna have to wrap up, but any last words on sleep? So if people are hearing themselves in our stories here, what are some things they can do tonight to try to get a better night's sleep?
There's so many things they can try. Some of the routines for going to bed is to have the room dark, go to bed a little bit earlier. If you go to bed at midnight, try to go to bed at 11 or 11:30. If you try to go to bed too early, then you'll be counting sheep. I would start with the routine of your sleeping routine.
Retrain the brain. Yes.
That's a good one about going to sleep even an hour earlier if you can. It took me a while to realize that as I stayed up again, I was pushing my adrenals. So my body had the message, we need to do everything we can to keep you awake. And the later I stayed up, the more tired my body was, and the more I was forcing it to give me energy to stay awake. So although going to bed earlier may seem counterintuitive, it's really important. Even I like taking a sauna. I like doing a sauna before, a near infrared sauna before bedtime. That calms me down, because oftentimes my sleep disruptions is while I'm healing would come from toxic metal agitation on my nervous system. So a near infrared sauna really helped me a lot. Drinking spring water before you go to bed, again, may seem counterintuitive, but you're trying to flush those toxins out of your body. You may have to get up during the night, but it would be, you go back to a restful sleep. And again, turn off that Wi-Fi and get all that electromagnetic frequency out of the boudoir.
We will talk about EMFs on another show, because I think that disruption for the sake of convenience is often overlooked, and it would be a great topic. So I'll make a note of that. EMFs. All right. And we could go on. We could probably have a whole nother, session just on sleep, and maybe we will, especially if you put your questions below.
Yes.
So interact with us, ask us the questions. What are you dealing with? What are the common complaints for you? Maybe your work swing shift half time, and then, you day shift another half. How do you regulate your sleep? That's really hard. So anyways, ask us questions. We'll get back to you the next time. But for now, thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in. And this has been the Perfect Balance podcast, where we say your symptoms are not the problem. This is Eva Vennari with the Elevate Institute.
And I'm Dr. Heather Kneale with Global Nutritional Healing.
And Leslie Brown with the Mineral Balancing Group.
And we'll see you next time.